Ron DeSantis, of course, is a governor that has really captivated the hearts and minds of millions of Americans, not just Floridians, but people who appreciate his clarity, his leadership, his common sense approach to governance. To understand, I mean, he's Trump squared. Somebody described Ron DeSantis to me as President Trump without the mean tweets. I'm not even sure if Ron DeSantis gets on Twitter. But here's what he said yesterday about this leak from the Supreme Court. Chief Justice Roberts confirmed yesterday that it was authentic. It is authentic. It appears that the U.S. Supreme Court is about to overturn Roe v. Wade and Casey. Listen to what Ron DeSantis said about it. I want to get a reaction from our upcoming guest, Mike Davis, who's the president and founder of Article 3 Project, who clerked for Justice Gorsuch. He was a law clerk for Justice Neil Gorsuch. Listen to Ron DeSantis yesterday in Florida.
And I think it was, really an attack on a lot of the justices. I think it was an intentional thing to try to whip up a lot of the public, to try to make it very political, potentially try to bully them into changing one of their positions, and that is not something that's appropriate for the judicial branch. And so I know they launched an investigation. They need to figure out who did that, and they need to hold them accountable, because that's a real significant breach of trust. You want to talk about an insurrection, that's a judicial insurrection to be taking that out and trying to kneecap a potential majority through kind of extra constitutional means. And so I was really surprised to see that. But so we'll see what ends up being the result.
Wow, what a phrase. What a way to put that. You want to talk insurrection? What about a judicial insurrection? Let's get Mike Davis's response, who joins us here on the Mike Gallagher Show. Again, president and founder of the Article 3 Project. Hey, Mike, how about that phraseology? A judicial insurrection. Is that a good way to describe this leak?
Thank you for having me, Mike. And if we're using the same language that Democrats use for when Republicans do bad things, sure, why not?
Sure. Let's you've got quite the background, and I've been reading about your career. You served in all three branches of the federal government, including for President George W. Bush, the Justice Department, Speaker Gingrich, and of course, current Supreme Court Justice Neil Gorsuch. Describe for us, from your perspective, what this leak means, what it does to the court, the integrity of the court, and how the justices right now are responding, at least behind closed doors, to this egregious breach at the Supreme Court.
Well, how you described it, Mike, is exactly right. This is an egregious breach. This is unprecedented. This is stunning. This is shameful, and it's likely illegal what happened here. I think that what you're going to find out here is you could have federal crimes for misuse or misuse of federal property, or even stolen federal property, maybe even obstruction of justice in this way, that if you're trying to do something illegal or inappropriate to change votes on the Supreme Court on a pending case, that certainly could fall under the obstruction of justice standard. I'll tell you this, there are 9 Supreme Court justices, as you all know. Each one of those Supreme Court justices has 4, sometimes 5 law clerks. They have 3 administrative aides. There is a very, very, very small universe of people who would have access to these draft opinions, very small. And you have to be able to collaborate among the 9 Supreme Court justices and their staff in order to do the job of drafting opinions, drafting majority opinions, drafting concurring opinions, drafting dissenting opinions. This is a very bad blow to the functioning of the Supreme Court. It's a blow to judicial independence. They have to get to the bottom of this. As you said, the Chief Justice appointed the Marshal of the Supreme Court, a Supreme Court officer who runs the Supreme Court Police, a 200-man police force, to get to the bottom of this. If the Marshal wants, they can call in select federal agencies, maybe like the U.S. Marshals, who works very closely and has worked very closely, an executive branch Justice Department agency who has worked very closely with the Supreme Court and the federal judiciary for over a century. I would caution that we do not want political branches involved in this. We do not want Congress. We do not want the White House. If anyone comes in from the executive branch, we want it to be by permission and deputized by the Supreme Court. You do not want to set a precedent here where the political branches can go in and start rummaging through the inner workings of the Supreme
Right.
Court. That would be a bigger problem for judicial independence.
You know, you were the former chief counsel for nominations to Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley. You know how all this works. You know, and you know the Supreme Court. I have to say, as a layman here, I gotta believe it shouldn't be hard to determine who leaked this. And I will tell you that I have a very, almost a personal animus for some of the things I've heard from Justice Sonia Sotomayor. She seems real hard left. Maybe my perception of her is wrong. There's a lot of speculation that it was her clerk who leaked this to Politico. You have any insight on who the leaker might be?
I think we have to be careful about that because I don't want to smear a law clerk because there's another theory out there that it was a different law clerk for a different justice. So I think what needs to happen is the
Well, wait a minute.
marshal
Wait,
needs to work with.
wait, Mike. So what? Well, which other justice? Don't give me. You don't have to tell me the clerk, but the justices are public figures. What other? What's the other theory about? So you've heard it's for another justice other than Sonia Sotomayor?
Well, there's a theory going around on the internet right now that it was one of Justice Breyer's clerks. I don't know if that's
I
true
see.
or not, but that's what I'm saying. We have to be very careful about who we tag with this before there's a full investigation. Because here's what's going to happen: the marshal of the Supreme Court could work with the Supreme Court police, maybe the United States Marshal Service. They need to start interviewing every single one of these court employees. They need to interview the law clerks, the justices' administrative staff, the IT people, all of them, and get them on record. And if any of these employees lie to this federal investigation, it's an 18 USC 1001 felony. You can't do that, right? So you can
Wow.
narrow it down that way. You could also subpoena their phone records. You could subpoena their emails. You could subpoena their
Right.
text messages. You could do a polygraph if you've had to. I
Right.
know that when there have been leaks in the past, the Supreme Court Chief Justice wanted to polygraph the law clerks. So there are ways they can get to the bottom of this and get to the bottom of this very quickly. If this is a lawyer, if this is a law clerk who has done this, their career is over. They're going to get fired. They're going to get disbarred. Maybe they can go work for MSNBC at that point because they're going to be done as a lawyer.
Well, but you're right though about MSNBC and that aspect of it. To the left, this person's a hero. I mean, the Democrats aren't even expressing any dismay or objection to this egregious breach. And that speaks volumes. Mike Davis is our guest. He's the president and founder of the Article 3 Project. They do great work. Mike knows his stuff. I just have to ask you at the end of the day, Mike, and I think this is probably the most important part of this. What does this do to the process, the Supreme Court process, if this was the majority opinion draft? It appears that at least 5 of the justices are ready to vote to overturn Roe v. Wade and Casey. In your view, could one of them, because it's only going to take one, could one of them change? Because it doesn't look like Roberts is going to vote with the majority, which is, shocker. Could one of them change their mind?
I actually think that whoever did this, this is going to backfire on them. This is going to have the opposite of the intended effect. The intended effect, I think, was to scare off one of these justices to not overturn Roe and not overturn Casey and Dobbs. And I think that this is going to have the opposite effect. Now justices cannot walk away from this opinion because if you do, you're going to be rewarding horrific behavior here. You're going to be rewarding one of the grave. This is probably the biggest assault on judicial independence we've ever seen. We have never had in the Supreme Court's history a full draft opinion and it's a case like this released publicly released or publicly leaked before it was issued by the court. This is a I mean, this puts Supreme Court justices' lives in danger. If you know what justices are up for grabs before the opinion comes out, that puts them in danger. Now they have security, but there are a lot of crazy people out there who would take lives into their hands. This was a
Oh,
very,
I saw something last night, and you probably saw it too on TV. Dave Chappelle, the comedian, was assaulted by some crazed, person at the Hollywood Bowl, and it turned out the guy had a knife. Apparently, that he's being charged with a felonious assault with a deadly weapon. Dave Chappelle, the comic, could have been killed on stage. There's a lot of violent people in the country, and one of my first thoughts was the security for the Supreme Court justices. And I've seen, anecdotally, I mean, there have been, instances where the justices seem to not have security, don't they? Do they have security 24/7, Mike?
so I was the chief counsel for nominations at the Senate Judiciary Committee, where I had oversight over the federal judiciary. I was the lead staffer for the federal judiciary. I can't comment on security other than to say that the Supreme Court justices are protected by federal agents. The
Good.
uh, so I would, but I would say this: like this is why I have publicly called out. The Chief Justice did the right thing by very quickly getting out there and appointing or designating the marshal of the Supreme Court to investigate this leak. I think that the court needs to immediately issue the Dobbs majority opinion, or at least a per curiam opinion, saying how they've ruled with opinions to follow. Get it out there right away so people know that no justices can be moved. The opinion's out, it's done. It's just opinions to follow. The majority opinion can come out now, or a per curiam can come out now with majority opinion, dissenting opinion, or a dissenting opinions, a concurring opinion, or concurring opinions. They need to get it out as soon as possible.
Mike Davis, I appreciate your time. Article 3 Project, that's the number 3, article3project.org to learn more about Mike's organization. Appreciate you taking time with us here. Keep fighting the good fight.
Thank you, Mike.